Well, we're very excited to be in the Elite Eight, and these guys have earned that right. They played very hard and very well together to beat an outstanding Houston team. The most impressive thing I thought is we only had 6 turnovers against a team that pressures a lot, and we battled them even on the backboards when they're like 4th in the country in rebounding. So a lot of credit goes to these guys that are sitting next to me.
Okay, thank you, Coach. Questions for anyone on stage? And our first one's going to be on your left.
Gary Furman, CaneSport.com. Jim, taking a look at Texas, it looks like they're very similar to what you've seen in the ACC a lot this year. Very athletic, they get up and down the floor, but also kind of similar to the way you guys play. Talk a little bit about what you've seen from Texas and what I'm sure has been some extensive film study the last 12 hours or so.
My staff does a great job of breaking down the opponent and then sharing with me the highlights of what we need to be considering. The biggest difference right now, as I observe them, is they like to put a lot of pressure on the pass receiver, so they deny passes, right? But they are very similar in size to us. You know, in the ACC, we've played against a lot of teams that had 2 7-footers in the starting lineup. This is a much different matchup for us, and I think it should make for a great game.
Okay, here on the aisle.
Okay, Michelle Kaufner from Miami Herald. Congratulations, guys. Nigel, as somebody who's played in this region and this area, you know, you're probably pretty familiar. What can you say about Texas? What's the scouting report? What do you think are the biggest, kind of maybe 2 or 3 of the biggest challenges playing against them? What are the keys to beating them?
Did you ask anybody in particular? I missed that.
Nigel.
Okay, Nigel.
Yeah, playing this team in the past, you know, they have a really good team, especially from the times that I played against them. Some really good guard play, especially 2 guards out of the Big 12 that I've also played against, and now they're teamed up together. So at the guard play, they're really well, and they got some transfers in as well. We just got to do what Miami does best. They like to attack the paint. We got to protect our paint. We got to rebound the ball, and then we always seem to do well on the offensive end.
Okay, go on the right now.
Hey, Coach. Luke Cheney with Life Follow Sports. I just wanted to ask about Bill Courtney and the impact he's had on your offensive success, both in the tournament and throughout the season as a whole.
Yeah, Coach Courtney and I have been best friends for the last 26 years. I hired him 26 years ago when he was 26 years old, and the first responsibility I gave him was to help Antonio Daniels become a pro, and Antonio became the 4th player chosen in the draft. Now he works with these guys. What time does he work with you in the morning, Zay?
Like 7:30, 8 a.m.
Up early in the morning, rebounding, talking to Zay, encouraging him. And Zay likes to be in that gym and get up shots, I can tell you that. But Coach Courtney is a terrific person, a terrific coach and mentor, and an outstanding recruiter.
Okay, here on the aisle.
Donovan Campbell with WSVN in Miami. Jordan, I got to ask you, I know this is a business trip, but Coach L's dance moves last night after the victory, I know you got to say something about that.
Did you see what I said yesterday or no? It was great. We all encouraged him to dance. It didn't look like he was going to at first, but he ended up, busting some moves out. No, but, that's what we look forward to as a team, our coach dancing, him showing us his moves, his old school songs. It was just great vibes all around.
Okay, on the right.
Jared Lennon, the Miami Hurricane. Friday has been widely regarded as one of, if not one of the biggest days in Miami basketball history, with both the men's and women's team reaching the Elite Eight at the same time for the first time in program history. I was wondering if someone could speak to what it feels to be a part of the program at this impressive moment.
Anybody in particular you want? Okay, Norchad, why don't you take that? Sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, it feels great being part of this, making history. It just feels good doing it with my brothers. I'm so happy for the women's program through that day, reaching the Elite Eight. Though, I think we're not finished yet.
Okay, let's go on the left, extreme left.
Myron Metcalf, ESPN. Nigel, when you were making your choice in the portal, how much did the city of Miami, the weather, everything attached to that influence your decision to transfer there?
It was the city and was a huge piece, the only piece really. No, I'm playing. The weather is always beautiful, obviously, but it was really these guys to the left and right of me. I mean, their plays, the main reason why I came. I wanted to be part of something special, something great. We're doing something special right now, obviously, but there's still a lot more work to be done. And obviously, Coach L was a huge piece of transferring. When you come to play to our school, you want to have a great coach, and Coach L has done that. And he's going to be a Hall of Fame coach when he decides to retire.
Okay, let's move back to the far right.
Chris Damon, the Miami Hurricane. For Isaiah, you guys are in a similar position to last year's. You're in the Elite Eight, but you're also playing another Big 12 team. So I just wanted to ask if you have any particular similarities that you feel from last year to this year, and how you guys can finally kind of break through the next round, what you guys need to do tomorrow.
I just feel like for us, like you said, we're in Elite Eight again. I feel like we have, like last year, we have a lot of knowledge of like how it was. So I feel like with this team this year, we're just gonna play through it, and we have me and Jordan and Wooga to show Nigel and Chad the experience, and just help each other throughout the game tomorrow, and just be the best version of each other.
Want to make a reminder to media on Zoom, please raise your hand if you have a question. Let's go on the left.
Blair Kirkhoff from the Kansas City Star, and this is for Jim, and it kind of follows up on that idea. You guys were half away from getting to the Final Four a year ago, had the lead. I'm just wondering if there was a lesson to be learned from that experience a year ago.
Yeah, don't get in foul trouble. No, really, last year we were ahead by 6 at halftime against Kansas in the Elite Eight, but we had several guys sitting on the bench in foul trouble, and that really made the difference. We could not sustain the effort. We had a couple of guys foul out, and you got to give Kansas and basically David McCormick the credit, because he was awesome, and they had a great team, and they ended up winning the national championship. I think what Zay said is really right. They've experienced this last year. They understand the level of competition and what's at stake. But Jordan and Isaiah and Wooga were on that team, and hopefully they can kind of help bridge the gap with the other guys on the team, including Nigel and Norchad, of getting them to know that it's not about who we play, and it's not about where we play, but it is how we play. And how we play means we have to execute our game plan better than our opponent executes its game plan. And that'll be true against every team we play.
Okay, on the aisle, Chip.
Chip Brown, Horns 24/7 for Nigel. What do you remember about going up against Hunter and Carr last year in the Big 12, and specifically, and what you're looking forward to tomorrow?
Both of those guys are really good guards. Playing against them was, a challenge, definitely. They're definitely, the credit they have deserved so far. It's obviously going to be a great game, but, the great guards that we have and the great guards that they have, it's going to come down to getting stops, definitely, and getting rebounds. We know how good of a team they are, but if we can play team defense, and, crowd the ball and things like that, and don't let them get, do things they like to do, I think we could be really successful.
Okay, on coach's right, in the middle.
Jordan, Luke Cheney with Life Followed Sports. You've played against some really good forwards so far this tournament, such as, Trace Jackson-Davis, Jarris Walker. Just what stands out to you about Texas's forwards?
Kind of like Coach L mentioned, this is a very complete team. I think looking at the box score from yesterday, they had I believe all five of their starters in double digits. So, I'm assuming whoever's hot that night is who they're going to get the ball to. But, the main theme has been every team in this tournament is good. Don't sleep on any opponent. Anyone can have a night like Nigel had yesterday. So you just got to make sure you're locked in, and don't let your opponent get any easy buckets to get them going.
Okay, here on the left.
Michelle Kaufman again from Miami Herald. Jim, can you talk about the job that their coach has done, and particularly to have to take over the program, the situation that he did? And their players were just talking about how that moment, the transition moment, was very awkward and difficult for those players. and he was able to bring them together and have the kind of chemistry that you can sort of see when they're together. How difficult you think that is for someone to do?
You know, I think knowing where you stand within your program, whether you're a player or a coach, is hugely important, because you want to have the respect not only as a coach of your players, but of your administration. And Rodney Terry was put in a very difficult situation because Chris Beard is one hell of a coach. And when Rodney had to step into his role, he had to command the respect of his players first. And they bought into whatever he said, whatever he did, hook, line, and sinker. They are an outstanding team. They've played very hard and very well together at both ends of the court. I was extremely impressed with how they played last night. I mean, they got ahead early, stayed ahead. They were up by over 20 in the second half. So, you know, Rodney deserves a lot of credit for that.
Okay, up front.
Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports. Jim, how do you react to your peer coaches and critics when they talk about NIL and say it's the wild, wild west out there? Particularly when, because of circumstances at Miami, we know some of the dollars involved, and they're pretty good for you guys.
You know, first of all, here's my philosophical belief. All right? The first thing is, I think everybody should be transparent. Why is it hidden behind, you know, the curtain? You know, why? You can go on a website and check out anybody's salary in the NBA. If we're truly going to be as a sports, we need to know what's going on. What is the competitive nature? Because there are a lot of schools that do the same thing we do. We just don't know about it because it's not in public knowledge. Why not? Why are we afraid of sharing that information? The second thing is, and I've told these guys from the very beginning, you know, the TV makes money, right? The shoe companies make money. The universities make money. The athletic directors, they run a program and they benefit from the relationship with the shoe companies. And the coaches make a hell of a living. Well, what's wrong with that filtering down? It's a natural progression to our players. But I tell them, and this is very, very important for everybody to understand, especially these guys, their relationship with companies and who they get NIL deals with is just like Steph Curry doing his Subway commercials. All right? I don't think Subway is telling Steve Kerr what to do with his basketball program. I have nobody telling me what to do with our basketball program. I'm going to coach my team, my players, to the best of my ability, and I hope the heck they get as many great deals as they can. Because I think eventually they have to learn how to handle money. So at their young age, if they learn it, maybe they'll find out. I don't know how many of these guys are spending every cent they get, but I know a lot of NBA guys did that and ended up bankrupt. So, no, but I think that's a learning experience. That's why you're in college anyway. Does anybody complain about the tennis players, women tennis players, 16 years old, winning the U.S. Open? Tracy Austin. I don't know if anybody knows Tracy Austin. You're all too young. But she was making great money. She had shoe deals, racket deals. These guys are the same. They're great athletes playing on a national stage. The teams that make it to the Final Four, how many people are going to be there watching in the arena? 75,000? 80,000? To me, that's big-time athletics. And I think the NCAA tournament is the best sporting event in the world. And these guys should be rewarded for the great job they do, not only in playing the game, but representing their universities. Because I know this, when people are watching us on TV, the next thing they do, oh, I don't know much about University of Miami. Is that a state university or a private school? Let me go check that out on their website. And then all of a sudden, we get more applications to our university because all of a sudden people are saying, man, this is a great school. And it's got a beautiful campus. It's in Miami. It's in the town of Coral Gables. Yeah, that's, did I answer your question, by the way? Okay.
Real quick follow-up. As a coach, when this debuted a year and a half ago, at what point did you start thinking about locker room cohesion, team cohesion, or was it not a concern at all?
I started that 51 years ago. I started coaching. This hasn't changed anything. These guys have to get along on the court and off the court. If you can't handle that as a coach, you probably couldn't handle when the guys was complaining about playing time, or I didn't get enough shots. Or it's all the same. You always have obstacles in your way, challenges that you have to face. This is just one more. The transfer portal, the same thing. Someone asked me, well, what do you think of the transfer portal? I said, well, years ago, we got transfers. We had Shane Larkin, he's a transfer from DePaul. All right? We got Angel Rodriguez, Sheldon McClellan, Kamari Murphy. Now they had to sit out a year. All right? All that's happened is now they don't have to sit out. But they joined the program, bought into the way we do things, the Miami way. They're great contributors to our basketball program and the university. And these guys continue to represent us. Whether you come in as a freshman or you come in as a transfer, the thing you have to do is you got to embrace the way we teach, the way we coach, and the life lessons we're trying to teach you. Because I've said this over and over again. If all I ever did was teach someone how to dribble, pass, and shoot, I don't think my life would be very worthwhile. My staff and I, my coaches, do a great job of being mentors, role models for them, of setting an example of how hard you have to work, the kind of commitment you have to make. And these guys, I said it about Isaiah, these guys are all in the gym. The first time Isaiah and Nigel were in the gym together last July, they hit it off day one. Why? Because they love playing basketball, they want to win, and they've proven they can win.
We have 2 minutes left in the period for our student athletes, but now let's go to Zoom. Alfred, you have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
Dan Tortora, please unmute yourself. Speak slowly, identify your affiliation, and ask your questions.
Dan Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com. For the student athletes, just what you can say, we've heard what Coach L had to say about each of you, just what it's meant to learn from him, and maybe a piece of advice from each of you that you carry with you from Coach, basically the biggest legacy he's left with you so far.
Dan, you want all 5?
If I can.
Okay, Isaiah, we'll start with you and work our way down toward the end.
I'll just say a lesson that Coach L taught me was he always just preaches to me, just play freely and just don't worry about what's happening, because sometimes you always go through a drought or not playing so well, but just play freely and just go about the game and just play to the best ability and play how you played all year.
For me, I always say that, Coach L, he's a coach, but he's also a teacher. He breaks down everything to a point to where you would understand it. Maybe sometimes a little too much, but, we have freshmen coming every year. But, no, seriously, he's taught me just the effects of a positive attitude. Like he kind of mentioned earlier, there's going to be obstacles that come up in your life, whether it's basketball, outside of basketball, that are going to occur. And just kind of having that perseverance and positivity, being optimistic to kind of push through it.
Yeah, for me, I would say that it's these 3 words: attitude, class, and commitment. He always, remind me of that. In any situation, you got to have a good attitude, good or bad, Then, if you're committed to something, you're going to do it to the best of your abilities and always act in a first-class manner.
Yeah, something I learned from Coach L is, treating everybody, with a positive attitude and, always nice to everybody. Anytime I see Coach L, if he's walking around anywhere and somebody stops and asks for a picture or autograph or something, he's always, happy and nice to that person, no matter who it is. You never know who you could run into and who that person could be. But I see, he taught me to treat everybody with a positive attitude and be nice to everybody.
Yeah, basically what these guys said. I really was going to say what Chad said, but he took it out of my mouth. But yeah, just he taught me a lot, just like being patient. And one thing that really stuck to me is like play the game, not the score.
All right.
Okay.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask about Christian Bishop. He had a really good game against Xavier last night, kind of in the absence of Dylan Disu. I was wondering how much film you've watched on him and if you've talked about him at all with your players.
Well, here's the thing about a team like Texas. They have a lot of good players, and you can't just focus your attention on the player. You have to focus on how they play together. So last year we played against Tyrese Hunter in the Sweet 16. And he's a tremendous player, tremendous point guard. And then Carr, another great guard. And then they've got Allen or Rice, another great player. And I don't know if Disu's going to play, but we have to cover him as well. And Mitchell, who's from Florida, very familiar with him. He's a tremendous athlete. And so whether it's Cunningham or anybody else, we just got to worry about them as a team.
Okay, toward the back on the left.
Jim, you were obviously, Myron Metcalf, ESPN, you were talking about NIL. That's obviously a conversation now about players and sponsorship deals with brands. But there are other conversations about whether or not players will one day get money directly from the institutions themselves, from the NCAA tournament. Are you in favor of the compensation conversation expanding to sort of those other financial pools that are attached to college basketball? Why or why not?
Okay. First of all, I'm not knowledgeable enough. I don't sit in on any committee meetings. What I would say is we really need the NCAA to put some rules in place. You know, we got a book that has 600 rules. We don't even have a rule for NIL. Now, we really need to have organization and discipline and accountability for what is this all about, all right? Now, it's my understanding that Congress thinks it's the NCAA's responsibility, and the NCAA thinks Congress needs to rule on it because we need to have all 50 states following the same rules. Well, get together. This stuff is important for the future of our country. These are all young men that are going through this. And what we see in professional sports is some guys rise and understand. Guys like Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson and LeBron, they make life-changing money, right? Life-altering money. These young kids, they might not get that chance beyond this, so they need an education about it, and we're trying to do that for our players. We have people in place at our university. I'm sure other schools do too. But my point was, you know, we don't know even what's going on at other schools. So until everybody makes this transparent and makes the guidelines not only understandable, but that you can follow them. You know, you can make a rule that, you know, nobody can follow. And so I think it's really important, the organization of this. We really need to sit down as an organization and make guidelines that work for the entire NCAA organization.
On the aisle, on Coach's right.
Coach Chuck Culpepper from the Washington Post. When you got your first crack at this event as a head coach in '99, you were led by a 28-year-old war veteran. You go to Boston, I think. You're against Huggins and Kenyon Martin, and Chaney's there, and Miami's there, and Keedy. And what do you think about when you think about that time, and if you could describe sort of the person and coach you were at that time relative to the event, especially?
The first thing I would say, I had a lot more hair back then. I had some experience at coaching. I had been at Bowling Green for 11 years as a head coach. So my experience in hiring the right coaches to be around me and the relationship that we built immediately with the players at George Mason really headed that program in the right direction. But you have to understand where it was coming from. George Mason had 7 consecutive losing seasons before we got there. It was the losingest program in the CAA when we got there. 14 years later, we were the winningest program in CAA history. So what we did was we laid down a foundation just like we've done at Miami. We have followed the same blueprint, the same map to take us from day one to where we are today. Now, at George Mason, by the 9th year, we had figured out just about everything we could to compete at the national level, and that team in 2005, 2006 made it to the Final Four. And we didn't get lucky. We were very, very good. We beat Michigan State, we beat Carolina, and we beat the #1 seed, UConn. So, to me, this program is really in the same direction. And so in these last 2 years, we're enjoying the fruits of our labors that started 12 years ago.
Okay, here on the left.
Michelle Coffin here from Miami Herald. I'm just wondering if there are any teams that Texas reminds you of, teams that you played in the ACC or anything. Is there any team they remind you of, and what are the specific keys to stopping them or limiting them?
There's several teams that you'd have to combine what they do to really put Texas together. So yesterday's Houston team, and very, very athletic guys about our size. They don't have 7-footers that dominate the paint like Duke did or Wake Forest did. So we match up kind of the same. They also have incredibly good guard play like NC State. Excuse me. NC State's backcourt of Smith and Joyner was tremendous. We had a hard time guarding them. That NC State also pressures, denies, very much like Texas does. So we review those game plans. We go back in time. We'll look at some tape on how we attacked those teams, how we defended those teams. And we've already started a game plan, but it's not complete yet. Like everything we do, we have to review how it went today and what changes we need to make. And by tomorrow, after the shoot-around, we'll have a clear picture of how we want to defend Texas and how we want to attack them.
Okay, on the right.
Just how important is it to have players like Jordan and Isaiah and Wooga, who have already been a part of an Elite Eight from last year, ahead of tomorrow's game? Just how important is their experience?
Well, the first thing I would say is confidence plays a big role. If your players are extremely confident, and Jordan Miller is about as confident as they come. He's a brilliant player. He's a great leader of our team, great spokesperson and ambassador for the university, and he is good at everything, whether it's defense or rebounding or ball handling or scoring, assisting. He does everything really well. And when you play with a guy like that who's so totally unselfish and just makes all the right decisions, it helps the other players' confidence rise. Isaiah is one of those guys that he just believes if I outwork you, I'm going to win. And that's what he does. He just works extremely hard. Wooga, and if I looked down the road, if I had a crystal ball, this guy is going to be something special. He's got all the ingredients of a major league college and pro player. He's got the size, the strength, the skills, and the competitive spirit. We put him now on the guy who's got the hot hand or the best scorer on the other team, no matter how big he is. He can guard a guard, he can guard a big guy. He's worked that hard to improve his defense, and it shows, and he's helped us in a big way to get to the Elite Eight.
Okay, let's move to coach's left.
Jim, you talked a little bit about the blueprint, and not too many years ago, the blueprint was blown up by something that was, obviously pretty unfair to you. But you're almost 70 years old. Your contemporaries are running for the golf course, and you've brought this thing back, and now you're in the Elite Eight for the second year in a row. Talk a little bit about that process, and now that you are here the second year in a row, is this not good enough? Is this the moment where you would like to see this thing go to the next level?
If you heard what Norchad said, he used 3 words. I tell him this all the time, every day, over and over again. You have to go through life with a positive attitude. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. Second is you have to make a total commitment to being the best that you can be in every category, whether it's basketball or academics or social life. You want to learn how to be successful. The third is it's very, very important to behave in a first-class manner. You hear all the major stories. It's constantly in the news about someone's bad behavior. We never want that. We always expect, and in the recruiting process, my staff has done a great job of finding players who come from good families, good backgrounds, and have good values. So that's very, very important. Lastly, no one is satisfied getting to an Elite Eight. Every team wants to get to the Final Four and win a national championship. We're no different than the other 7 schools. But it's a challenge. Every team you play is different than the previous matchup. The way they defend, the way they rebound, the way they execute their offense. Some things repeat themselves. And one of the good things is the way we teach, the vocabulary that we use, the terminology, is so that we can make it as consistent as possible. And the guys have done a great job of learning the terminology and then be able to learn, okay, this is the game plan and how it applies. So, does that answer your question, Gary? Kinda? All right.
We have 6 minutes to go in this session for Miami. I think we're going to go to Zoom, and then we will come back to the room. Alfred?
Dan Tortora, please unmute yourself. Speak slowly. Identify your affiliation and ask your questions.
Dan Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com. Coach, last season the ACC overall didn't get respect nationally before the season or throughout the season or in the tournament seeding. That happened again this year, and Miami is back for the second time in the Elite Eight. Just what you can say about the strength of the ACC and what you would like people to know about the conference and what it's been the last couple of years.
You know, I grew up an ACC fan. Frank McGuire was the head coach at North Carolina when I was growing up. My high school coach, Jack Curran, played for Frank McGuire in college at St. John's University. And so I became very familiar with the ACC and watching them. The 8 schools that represented the league back then, unbelievable competition. You'd always read about Carolina and Duke and Wake Forest and NC State. They're all competing for not only the ACC championship, but national championships. When I started my coaching career, it started when I was 21 years old and I was living in the state of North Carolina. And they were still playing the Big Four tournament in November, where those teams were facing each other early on in a tournament and then have to play each other again in the league play. It's been the best basketball league in the country for the last 60 years or more. And it upsets me to think that because we now have analytics and numbers that you have to know how to read those numbers, right? Not everybody can understand them, right? So you look at a team, let's use Houston as an example, and they're the 4th best rebounding team in the country. We're probably like the 400th best rebounding team in the country, yet we battled them even. What? Well, our guys are good too. Our league is very good from top to bottom. I think there's been a lot of disrespect for the league that it doesn't deserve. And I got an email recently from Jim Phillips, our commissioner, saying we're going to address this as a league in our spring meetings and hopefully, you know, get the committee to understand that our league should be respected a lot more seriously than it is right now.
Okay, back to questions here in Kansas City. I'll be on the aisle on Coach's right.
Hi, Eamon Brennan from The Athletic. I was wondering if you could take me back through Isaiah's early career in his first couple of years when the team struggled, and maybe what impact that had on him being able to sort of learn and grow in a slightly maybe less pressurized environment.
It's not less pressure. It's really how you handle the pressure. So as a freshman, he was 6'2", 162 pounds. He was skinny. He was weak. He's athletic, and he could score. He had no clue about defense, none, all right? And his first college game was against Louisville. And that team did a lot of screening. He hit every screen. And then when his man was screening, he didn't help his teammate one time. And then as that season progressed, he was getting stronger and stronger. He grew a little bit, 6'3", maybe even a little bit more. By his sophomore year, he was 184 pounds of pure muscle, probably 4% body fat. His vertical increased about 6 inches. His three-point shot improved. Every aspect of his game improved, especially his defense. We spent a lot of time with him, my staff did, of putting him through what we call basketball 101, the very basic fundamentals of offense and defense. Try to encourage him to reduce the number of dribbles to be effective. because at that time he was pounding the ball a little too much or a lot too much. But now he's extremely efficient with the ball, and his defense has dramatically improved. And we put him on all different kinds of guys. He started the game guarding Trayvon Mark, who's like a small forward, and then we switched him on to Sasser, and towards the start of the second half, we switched him on to Shed. So that's how much he's improved defensively, but it's all because of this tremendous work ethic. He loves the game, and I love coaching him. And I've said this over and over again. He's never, in 4 years, never had a bad attitude day or a bad effort day. You know, some days he doesn't make as many shots or doesn't rebound quite as well, but his attitude is always great and his effort is always great.
Closing questions now for Coach Larranaga here on the right.
Hey again, Coach. I just wanted to ask a follow-up about Wooga. I remember, I think it was before the start of last season, you were saying that his biggest, or one of the biggest areas that he needs to clean up in was his defense. And now, just a little over a year later, he's guarding opposing team's best player. Have you ever coached another player who's taken that big of a leap defensively into such a short amount of time?
Yeah, honestly, Luke, I've coached a number of guys who've done it. My favorite story is about a young man named Follering Campbell who averaged 29 points a game. He signed with us at George Mason University. He was our top recruit. We had 4 recruits that year. 2 of them ended up starting, and he didn't start. And he played 10, 12 minutes a game as a freshman. But what I tell every recruit, that if they come, in this case, George Mason, the first thing every freshman has to learn is you got to play better defense. You can't just guard your man. You have to learn how to play team defense. You have to learn how to help each other and what have you. So he wasn't playing much in December, and he came into my office. He said, Coach, how come I'm not playing much? I said, well, I told you during the recruiting process, you got to really improve your defense. You'll earn your playing time once you can really defend. So in the middle of January, he still wasn't playing much, and he came into the office and said, "Hey, Coach, I'm not playing much. How come?" His nickname was Shaq. So I said, "Hey, Shaq, I told you when we were recruiting you, I told you a month ago, you have to improve your defense." This is a quote. "You were serious about that?" Because when he was in high school, his whole game was based on offense, scoring 29 points, and he told me my high school coach always put me on the worst player so I wouldn't get in foul trouble. A month later, he was in our starting lineup, and I assigned him the job of guarding the most valuable player in the league. Shaq was 6'4" or 5". The guy he was guarding was 6'9". He held the guy who was averaging 20, he held him to 9, and he scored 19. He made a drastic improvement, 2 months? It took Wooga like a year.